You're listening to Make Today Count podcast. I'm Jessica Morari, certified life and career coach, and I will be your host. If you're ready to think better, choose better, and act even when it's messy, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's make today count. Hello, welcome back to a new episode of Make Today Count. I hope you're having a fantastic week. Actually, I hope you've had at least one moment this week where you look at your life and thought, actually, things are not that bad. You know, I've been traveling for the past few weeks and I have been out of Dubai because summer is here, and with everything that happened in the region, the in-person projects have slowed down a bit. So it was a great opportunity for me to come back home, focus on my family and rest and many other things in general. And of course, there is a lot of opportunities that are not happening right now because I'm not there, and also because life just happens sometimes. And the other day I was thinking that we spend so much time focusing on what's missing that we forget to acknowledge what's working and what's already there. As I say, sometimes absence is louder than a present. And the whole point of Make Today Count is this one. The philosophy behind the podcast and this mantra that I've been using for the past few years is to always find something to make today count. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, not any other day, but today. Anyway, today's episode is actually connected to that somehow, because I want to talk about something that I see quite often and that comes up in, I would say, 95% of the times that I have a discovery session or that we do the first sessions with my clients. But to be fair, I also see these in conversations with friends. I see it on LinkedIn, I see it on Instagram, and if I'm completely honest, I see it in myself too, because human nature, my friend. We have this tendency that the solution to our unhappiness or to our discomfort is a complete revolution of our lives. Something happens in our life, or we realize that we're not as happy as we would like to be, and we directly go into a black and white mode. And we have this approach which is so extreme. We don't think about tweaks or adjustments because that would be too easy. No, we go, or better, we think about going into a full revolution. Maybe we feel burned out at work and we feel overwhelmed. The immediate thought is, I'm going to quit, I'm going to start a business. Maybe it's a moment that you feel uninspired, or you've broken up with your partner, or anything big has happened that has shaken you a little bit. Let's move abroad. Or maybe you're feeling stuck in your job, so you think, I should change a career. Or if you're having a rough month and maybe things aren't going as you planned, you're thinking about reinventing your whole self. Right? It's amazing the capacity that our brains have to escalate things. And I was thinking about this recently because I had a first session with someone who was absolutely convinced that she needed to make a huge change. She's someone coming from a long career in corporate. She had been in quite of a toxic environment, professionally speaking, for a while, and she was really struggling to stay mentally sane. The job was really taking a toll on her health and her relationships and her family, and she said something like, I'm 40, I need to quit and I need to change my career and do something else. And there she started to tell me the things that she could do, what she was thinking about. So she said that maybe she could start a business, her own consultancy, or that maybe she could take some time off and do some courses, AI, digital marketing, all that kind of direction. And she even said that she could be open to explore opportunities overseas because the kids were now almost done with school, and her husband and her always wanted to move to Spain. And while she was talking, I was thinking, and I was seeing that she wasn't feeling very strong on her position. So my question at the end was very simple. Do you actually want these new kind of lives that you're telling me? You've mentioned different ones. Do you want that, or you just want relief from what you have right now? And I'm telling you, those are two completely different things. And sometimes we think it's the same and we mix them up all the time. So when you're exhausted, the alternatives, almost any alternative, looks kind of attractive. And if you notice, she was talking about 3 different options, and there were options that were so different and almost opposite to each other. So she was feeling frustrated. And in that situation, when you feel overwhelmed and tired and that you're kind of done with everything, any alternative feels like freedom, feels like a breath of fresh air. And you need to be careful to make big decisions in those moments because you are in this survival mode. And that means that anything, even things that wouldn't normally be on your bingo card, things that you don't want to, that can feel exciting and they can feel a relief because it's just taking you away from your current misery. That's very dangerous. There is a big difference between running towards something and running away from something. The why behind your choices, the decisions that you make, is completely different. The push and the drive are going to be there in both cases, but the result is not going to be the same. It's going to be very different. This is very typical, and especially if you're going through a lot of stress and you feel overwhelmed and pressured and like everything is going wrong, you probably look for a dramatic change. That's what we usually do. And that's a typical situation where you see an Instagram post on a Sunday night and that talks about a lady who quit her corporate job and she was making 7 figures because everyone is making 7 figures nowadays. And she quits her corporate job and she trains as a yoga teacher and she goes to live her best life in Bali and she feels aligned and she feels grounded and she's still making 7 figures because why not? We're all dreaming. So you are in this moment where you're vulnerable, emotionally vulnerable, you're done with your life, you want to change, and this lady really gives you a lot of inspiration. And you start thinking about you doing the same. So you start dreaming about you living your life in flip-flops and moving to the other side of the world where there is no offices, there is no meetings, no corporate communication. You're just done with that. And you really start falling in love with this idea, with this version of life, which is so beautiful. Makes you feel happy just by thinking about it. But that life has literally nothing to do with what you have right now. It's just so fun and relaxed and easy, and it feels just so appealing. We all do this. We fall in love with lives we've never actually lived. We've never actually experienced that. You've never experienced a life in Bali, teaching yoga full time. I haven't even visited Bali, but it feels appealing. And that's exactly what you need right now. You think that's the move that's going to solve all your problems. And I always say things that are not very sexy on the podcast, so I'm going to say another one right now, which is the imagination is a terrible source of information. It's a fantastic source of creativity, but a terrible source of information because your imagination edits a lot. It takes away all the stuff that we usually don't like, all the details that are boring, anything that we don't feel or see as glamorous, it takes it away. Nobody fantasizes about taxes. Nobody has ever sat on a couch and said, you know what? You know what would make this dream even better? Bali and more bureaucracy. Nobody does that. When somebody tells me about the fact that they want to move or relocate to another country, they talk about the lifestyle. They tell me about the weather, the opportunities, the adventure. Nobody talks about how difficult it can be to open a bank account. They don't tell me about visas and paperwork or trying to figure out the internet in an apartment where nobody speaks their language. And I'm speaking from experience here. When you run away from something, there is a higher chance that you will end up frustrated and overwhelmed as you were before your, let's call it, revolution. You will still get the boring Tuesdays, you'll still have the laundry, the admin, the bad days. I'm telling you, there are going to be a lot of them. You will still have moments where you'll question the decisions you've done. The scenery changes, the environment changes, but you come with it. You don't change. That's something that we often forget. We think the problem is always external, and we think that by changing the external, everything is just going to disappear. We think the answer is somewhere else. And sometimes it is. Sometimes a change is exactly what you need. And mind me that I'm not telling you of not being ambitious, of retaining from any change, big or small that be. I'm the queen of changes and reinventions and relocation, so I would never, ever tell you to not change or to relocate. I actually encourage you to dream big and go for it. That's what I'm here for, to create and help you to create that definition of success that belongs to you. But what I want you is to make sure that you have the right why behind it. So I want you to check if you're running towards something or if you're running away from something. Again, big difference. It makes a huge difference, I'm telling you. And the second thing that I would do if I were in this situation, so if I were between making a big decision, which I've been multiple times, as I told you, I'm talking from experience here. Again, mine and my clients. So what I would do, and the point of the whole podcast, the whole episode of today, is to follow a very simple framework when you want to make a decision for your life, for your career, for your relationship, any change that makes you feel a bit uncomfortable. What I've noticed is that many times, many people, we skip an important step. So we go from dreaming to deciding. So we have dream decision, and there's no step in between. There is no testing, there is no gathering evidence, there is no question about, is this actually what I want? Is this actually what it's going to look like in reality? I'm having this vision, I'm having this fantasy and dream about what's my life going to be once I make this decision. Is it going to be like that? We love certainty. We want guarantees, we want somebody or something to tell us that if we quit our job, if we move to the other side of the world, if we start a business, if we change career, any change that we want to make, we want the certainty and someone to tell us that everything is going to be fantastic and it's going to work out beautifully. And it doesn't happen. We don't have that service. Life doesn't have the service that gives you certainty. There is no customer support that helps you and supports you during major life crisis. Maybe we should do it. But because we don't get that certainty, because we don't have that sure future, that outcome that we know 100% that's going to happen, then we start thinking. We spend months and sometimes years. I've had clients that came to me after 8, 9, 10 years of thinking about something that they hadn't done yet. And we try to think our way into that certainty. And maybe that's happened to you. Maybe you're listening to this and saying, yeah, that's me. That's me. I did it. I have done it with different things. Probably not so many years, but for some time I have this tendency of overthinking. You think about something and then you start journaling about it. You make a list of pros and cons, which I absolutely love. We listen to podcasts. You're doing it right now. You start reading books about that thing. You ask friends, maybe ask someone who's already done what you would like to do. Then you think some more. And then you go on Excel, you create a spreadsheet with a little nice financial plan. You go and watch more YouTube videos and you think again. And that 6 months, the best, maybe it's going to be 6 years, I don't know. But that 6 months of your life, a period of your time that you spend thinking, and you have exactly the same amount of certainty you had on the first day, which is 0. There is no certainty. Thinking can only get you so far. And that's why so often I tell my clients to stop thinking and start doing. At some point, you don't need more certainty. You don't need more clarity. What you need is information. And that information comes only from one thing, which is experience. So you need to get things done and see what works and what doesn't for you. It doesn't get from imagination, or if you research more, or if you think about something else more. Anything else. Only from experience. You actually need to do the thing to understand. And this is where the prototyping comes in. It's a concept that I absolutely love, and I've used it multiple times on myself and on my life and on the choices that I want to make. And I've used it with some of my clients to start transitioning into things of their life that I wanted to try. And the beauty of the prototyping, it's mostly because it takes away so much pressure of a decision making. So instead of asking, is this the right choice? Or shall I take this leap and completely change my life? The question that you need to ask yourself is, how can I test this? I have this idea. How can I test if this works for me? It's very different questions, very different mindset, very different approach, and also emotional state. Let's say that you're thinking about becoming a coach. This is something that happened to me with more than one of my clients. So someone discovers coaching, they see how it works, they see how powerful it can be, they get excited, they love it, and they say, you know what? I'm thinking about becoming a coach. So they start imagining a future where they're helping people, they're making an impact, they're creating freedom for themselves and for the people. That's amazing. I understand it because I do it. So I know how powerful it is, this feeling. And usually in this case, the first thing that comes to their mind is like, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to fall in with this. Maybe, and I'm putting a big maybe because everyone knows what's best for them. Maybe before quitting your job, maybe you can coach 10 people. Maybe you can use your training for the certification to see if that's what you want to do full time. Maybe you can coach 20 people. Maybe you get to spend 6 months doing this. Maybe you can shadow some coach. Because maybe you discover that you love coaching, but you also understand that building a coaching business is something different. You need to do marketing, you need to do sales, you need to do content creation, you need to do networking, you need to do the admin. There's so much behind the coaching someone one-on-one or doing group coaching that not many people talks about on Instagram. Everyone talks about the beauty of it. I'm the one who talks about the beauty of being a coach, and I can tell you it's very rewarding, but there's so much more about it. Maybe you're not in for that. Maybe you don't want it. That means that it's a news that you have now. It's a data. And it is good because it can prevent you from making an expensive mistake. You can do the same exercise for the relocation, which is, I love relocation and I love expat because everyone kind of romanticizes that relocation and expat life. We still live in the meantime. So you have this situation very often where you go somewhere for a week and you have the best holiday ever. The weather is beautiful, people are amazing, everyone seems so nice and happy, the food is really good, and you start looking at apartments. I've done that. I've looked at apartments for many places that I've been. And maybe moving there is the right decision. But maybe before moving, try to live there for a while. Extend that holiday. Spend a month there, not as a tourist, but leave the place. Maybe you can work remotely for a while to see the vibe. When I moved to Dubai, before moving to Dubai actually, I prototyped my life in Dubai in phases. So I went there for maybe 3 months and then I came back and then I went 3 months again. And every time I was testing something different. First it was the culture and see how I was feeling. Then it was the market, the job market for my full-time job. And then I was exploring how the city could support my business. So many things that I was exploring, and every prototyping gave me something back. So I gathered data and then I adjusted. And my experience in Dubai is so positive as of now because of the prototyping that I did before. So your prototype should be long enough to experience boredom and to experience no moments, because you will have them, I'm telling you, and also to experience everyday life. You're not going to get exciting moments all day long. Actually, you're going to have plenty of ordinary moments, and definitely more than the special ones. That's life. And if you want another example, there's of course the getting into the business, which is another classic. I have many clients of mine working with me also at the moment that they're starting their own business. What kind of business? How do you want to find the clients? How much do you need to earn every month? Are you ready? And how do you feel about not having a steady income for a certain period of time? So when you start putting the details, it becomes more concrete. It's very easy to love a dream. It's abstract. It only has the beautiful part, as I said before. You leave out all the details that can make something a little bit less sexy. And you don't discover all these things by thinking about it. You discover them by doing. You need to experience it. And I'm telling you that probably you wouldn't want to make a major life decision without prototyping it a bit. So what I use with clients, the word that I usually do with clients that want to make a major change is a very simple framework. We test, we get the data, and then we adjust. It's not a dream, decide, and panic, which is quite popular, unsurprisingly. We test, we get the data, and we adjust. Reality, the experience is very, very helpful to understand what you want and what you don't want. And maybe you find out that it's harder than you think. Maybe it's easier than you thought, or that it's not what you want, that maybe you just need a little bit of escape. Or maybe you absolutely love it and you decide fully go. Some of the best things in my life happened, and there were things that I wasn't 100% convinced about at the beginning. I don't know if I've shared this before, but I didn't certify as a coach to actually coach people one-on-one. I didn't want to start my business. That was not my plan in the first place. The reason why I certified as a coach is because I wanted to use it as a tool to become a better manager. So I wanted to get better at developing people and to support my team. And then I ended up doing it with one-on-one clients and to set up my own business. Because at some point I realized that I love this too much. And I didn't want to use it just as a complementary tool for my full-time job. And at the same time, I've also worked with clients that certifies as coach, and they've turned their passion into a job, and they ended up hating it because it completely changed the relationship they had with it. Not just with coaching clients, to be fair, other types of passion too. So again, it's not about getting the choice, the major change, right or wrong. It's more about testing it out and gather information, get those data, and see if that can work for you on a bigger scale. So if you're currently sitting on some huge dream or some huge life change or a huge idea that keeps coming back to you, I want you to think about one question. What kind of prototype you can do? What would a prototype look like? I don't want you to create a full 5-year plan. That's not the point. I want you to think about how you can simply test that idea. What's the easiest way that you can start by prototyping it? What you could test in the next 30 days, for example. And maybe that dream is absolutely right for you. And maybe you realize that's just an escape fantasy. But there's just one way to find out, and we've seen it. It's about test it and you adjust it. And as usual, if you're sitting on something and you don't want to walk into alone, that's what I'm here for. You find a link in the description where you can connect with me and we can chat and we can discuss how I can best support you. And I'm actually looking forward to it. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today too. I really, really, really appreciate you being here and showing up every week to create a moment for you and for your growth. And as usual, I'll see you next time. Make today count. Ciao.